In 1970, a tiny American car company did something completely crazy. They built a 170-mile-per-hour Italian supercar with an American V8 heart, and then killed it before anyone could buy one. Only 6 were ever made. This is the wild, true story of the AMC AMX3, America's forgotten dream machine. American Motors Corporation had a problem. Actually, they had a lot of problems. By 1967, AMC was dying. The company had lost $75.8 million that year, a staggering amount. Factories closed for days at a time. Workers wondered if they would still have jobs next month. AMC was the smallest of America's automakers, and everyone knew what happened to small players who could not keep up. The company's previous boss had made a terrible mistake. He tried to compete head-to-head with the giant automakers by building big fancy cars that nobody wanted. Sales collapsed. The board of directors had seen enough. On January 9, 1967, they fired him and brought in a new team. The new leaders were different. Roy D. Chapin Jr. became chairman at just 52 years old. His father had helped found one of AMC's ancestor companies decades earlier, so car building was in his blood. But the man who would change everything was Gerald C. Myers, a 39-year-old hotshot who became vice president of product development. Myers understood something important. AMC could never outspend the giant automakers. They had to outsmart them instead. They needed to find special corners of the market that the big guys ignored, and they needed something spectacular to get people excited again. What if AMC built a supercar? Not just any fast car, but something truly exotic, a mid-engine sports car that could run with the best from Italy. It sounded insane. It was insane, but Myers gave the project his blessing anyway. The man who would bring this dream to life was Richard Dick Teague, AMC's head of design. Teague was a legend in the car industry, known for creating beautiful vehicles on shoestring budgets. People called him the silk purse from a sow's ear guy because he could make something gorgeous with almost no money. Teague's life had been marked by tragedy. When he was just 5 years old, a car accident cost him his right eye. 2 years later, a drunk driver killed his father. Yet somehow, he channeled his pain into creating some of the most striking cars of his era. In May 1967, Myers gave Teague and his team a thrilling assignment: design a mid-engine prototype. This meant putting the engine behind the driver instead of in front, the same layout used by the world's most exotic sports cars. The work happened in near secrecy. According to Teague's son, Jeff, the job was done in secret in the company basement. But AMC's top executives were not completely sure their own team could compete with European designers. So, they arranged a competition. Teague's American team would go up against Giorgetto Giugiaro, a young Italian designer who was already becoming famous for his stunning work. In March 1968, Myers and Teague traveled to the Geneva Motor Show in Switzerland to meet Giugiaro and give him the assignment. Both teams went to work. Months passed. In November 1968, Giugiaro's submission arrived at AMC headquarters, a rough styrofoam model. The managers were not impressed. Some called it lumpy. Others said it looked unfinished. Then they looked at what Teague's team had created, a fully developed fiberglass model of a sleek, wedge-shaped supercar that practically seemed to vibrate with speed, even standing still. The car was low-slung and dramatic, with pop-up headlights and curves in all the right places. Teague won spectacularly. His design would become the AMX3. Designing a gorgeous car was one thing. Actually building it to run 170 miles per hour or 274 kilometers per hour was something else entirely. AMC needed help. They first approached BMW in Germany. Could the German engineers help develop this American supercar? BMW said no. They simply did not have enough engineers to spare, but they recommended someone else, an Italian genius named Giotto Bizzarini. Bizzarini was a legend. He had spent 5 years as the chief engineer at Ferrari during their greatest racing years. He was responsible for some of the most celebrated sports cars ever created. In 1961, he was one of 5 engineers who famously walked out on Enzo Ferrari after a disagreement, a moment that became known as the Great Walkout. After leaving Ferrari, Bizzarini started his own company and built beautiful sports cars. But by late 1968, his company had gone bankrupt. When AMC came calling, Bizzarini was available and eager. The arrangement was unusual. Dick Teague's American team had designed how the car would look. Bizzarini would figure out how to make it actually work. He designed the suspension, the system that connects the wheels to the car body and determines how it handles. He convinced a company called OTO Melara, which usually built military equipment, to create a special transmission just for this car. The actual building would happen in Italy, at a small workshop run by Salvatore Diamante, who had previously worked as Bizzarini's plant manager. Diamante and his craftsmen would shape raw steel into beautiful body panels, all done by hand. There was one more secret partner that historians only discovered years later. Even though Giugiaro had lost the design competition, his company Ital Design secretly helped engineer the car's structure. They tested it, strengthened it, and made sure it would not fall apart at high speed. AMC kept this involvement quiet. Teague probably did not want anyone knowing his rival had helped build his masterpiece. AMC hired BMW for a critical job: testing. The German automaker would put the prototypes through brutal evaluations to find every weakness before the car ever reached customers. BMW gave the project a secret code name: E18. When the first prototype arrived at BMW's facilities in Munich, Germany in June 1969, the engineers made a disturbing discovery. The car was a disaster. They called it the flexible flyer. Under hard acceleration, the frame twisted. Under hard braking, it twisted the other way. Welds broke, seams burst. The car that was supposed to hit 170 miles per hour could not even be safely tested. Reports went back to Italy. Bizzarini and his team went to work fixing everything. They strengthened the frame, they improved the welds, they redesigned weak points. When the second prototype arrived at BMW later that summer, the engineers could not believe the transformation. The new car was 50% stiffer than a high-end Mercedes-Benz they used as a benchmark. The BMW engineers were so impressed that one of them declared it the most neutral handling car they had ever tested. Something remarkable happened next. BMW had been hired just to test the car and report problems. But the German engineers got excited. They went far beyond their contract, actively helping to make the AMX3 better. They threw out the original British brake system and replaced it with superior German components. They designed a custom exhaust system. They improved how the clutch worked. They solved overheating problems. What started as a business arrangement became a labor of love. In spring 1970, the second prototype traveled to one of the world's most famous racetracks, the Autodromo Nazionale Monza in Italy. This ancient circuit had hosted races for decades and tested the greatest cars ever built. Behind the wheel was Bizzarini himself, along with professional racing driver Antonio Neri. They strapped themselves in, fired up the big American V8 engine, and pushed the car to its absolute limits. The results were stunning. The AMX3 hit a top speed of 170 miles per hour, or 274 kilometers per hour. It could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 6 seconds. On the track, it turned lap times of 1 minute, 56 seconds, matching or beating some of the most exotic sports cars in the world. Bizzarini, the man who had engineered some of the greatest sports cars in history, later said something remarkable. "I would have to say the AMX3 was the best car I built in terms of mechanical components and road holding." Think about that. The man who created legendary supercars at Ferrari said this American-Italian hybrid was his finest work. AMC knew they had something special. They planned a dramatic reveal. On March 23, 1970, the company unveiled the AMX3 to Italian journalists in Rome. A photographer captured the stunning red car in front of the ancient Colosseum, a perfect symbol for this American-Italian partnership. The image became one of the most memorable car photographs of the era. The timing was deliberate. AMC scheduled their announcement one day before a competitor would reveal their own mid-engine sports car. It was a shot across the bow, a declaration that tiny AMC was ready to compete with anyone. Less than 2 weeks later, on April 5th, the car appeared at the New York Auto Show. American journalists finally got to see what their own countrymen had created. The response was overwhelming. Every major car magazine covered the AMX3. Motor Trend, Road and Track, Car Life, Popular Mechanics. They all featured the gorgeous machine. The press loved it. The public loved it. AMC seemed poised to make history as the first American company to sell a mid-engine supercar. And then something went wrong. Before the AMX3 could reach showrooms, AMC wanted one more opinion. They called Mark Donohue, one of the greatest racing drivers in America. Donohue had just won the Trans Am Championship, driving AMC's racing Javelins with the legendary Penske team. On June 12, 1970, Donohue arrived at Michigan International Speedway to test the AMX3. For several hours, he pushed the car hard, feeling out its capabilities and finding its limits. Donohue reportedly found the car was about 80% complete. There were still issues to solve, but the basic car was genuinely fast, genuinely capable, genuinely special. With more development, it could compete with anything. The engineers took careful notes. They would fix everything Donohue identified on the next round of prototypes. The project was so close to success. And then AMC pulled the plug. In the summer of 1970, AMC quietly canceled the AMX3 program. There was no press conference, no announcement, no explanation. The company had spent approximately $2 million, equivalent to about $15 million today, and simply walked away. Why? AMC never officially said. But historians have pieced together several factors. First, AMC was hemorrhaging money. A massive union strike had pushed the company to the edge of bankruptcy. Every dollar spent on an exotic supercar was a dollar not spent keeping the lights on. Second, the projected price kept climbing. The car was originally supposed to cost around $10,000. But as development continued, estimates rose to $12,000 or even $14,000, pricing it out of reach for many buyers and making it less competitive. Third, government regulations were changing. New rules requiring stronger bumpers and cleaner emissions were coming. Redesigning the beautiful AMX3 to meet these requirements would cost millions more. Fourth, the era of fast American cars was ending. Insurance costs were skyrocketing for high-performance vehicles. Young buyers who once craved speed were being priced out of the market. Finally, the production numbers never made sense. AMC initially dreamed of building 5,000 cars per year. That dropped to 1,000, then to just 24 cars annually. At those volumes, the math simply did not work. The AMX3 was dead. 6 complete cars existed. 3 more chassis were partially finished. All that potential, all that talent, all that money, gone. When AMC killed the project, company executives reportedly told Bizzarini to destroy all 6 cars, crush them, eliminate the evidence of this expensive failure. Bizzarini refused. He preserved every single car. The man who had walked away from Ferrari because of principle was not about to destroy masterpieces just because accountants demanded it. There was talk of continuing without AMC. Bizzarini considered producing the cars under his own name, calling them the Schiabola, Italian for saber. AMC even offered to supply parts for 30 cars. But Bizzarini's recent bankruptcy haunted him. "I just didn't have the courage to proceed," he later admitted. "The wounds were too fresh, the risk was too great." And so, the Schiabola never materialized beyond a single car shown at a 1976 auto show. Meanwhile, back in America, 2 of the prototypes sat outside AMC's Michigan headquarters, rotting in the harsh winters. Rain soaked them. Snow buried them. Rust began its slow destruction. Dick Teague, the designer who had poured his heart into this car, could not bear to watch. In 1978, he asked AMC's CEO what could be done. The response was crushing. Crush them. Instead, Teague bought 3 of the cars himself, numbers 1, 3, and 5. He spent years lovingly restoring them. The AMX3, he later said, was my favorite car design. He called the 6th car, which Salvatore Diamante had completed from leftover parts, the fairest one of all. Teague died in 1991. His last wish was for his son Jeff, also a car designer, to take the AMX3 out and give it a good run. All 6 AMX3 cars survive today, a remarkable outcome for prototypes that were nearly crushed. Their stories are as dramatic as the car itself. The AMC AMX3 stands as one of automotive history's greatest what-ifs. Here was a struggling American company fighting for survival that managed to create something genuinely world-class. They assembled an unprecedented team, a brilliant American designer, an Italian engineering genius, German perfectionists, and skilled craftsmen who built each car by hand. The result was a car that could run 170 miles per hour and outhandle vehicles costing twice as much. Had it reached production, the AMX3 would have beaten the mid-engine Corvette to market by 50 years. It would have proven that innovation does not require billions of dollars, just vision, talent, and courage. Today, when car companies announce electric supercars and autonomous vehicles, when startups promise to revolutionize transportation, the AMX3 offers a lesson. Great things are possible when talented people commit to a bold vision. Geography does not matter. Americans, Italians, and Germans built something beautiful together. Resources do not have to be unlimited. AMC worked with a fraction of what competitors spent. What matters is believing you can do something special, then actually doing it. The AMX3 proved that small companies can create world-class machines. It proved that boundaries between countries and cultures dissolve when people share a common passion. It proved that some things are worth attempting even if success is not guaranteed. All 6 cars survive. They are faster than anything from their era has a right to be. They are more beautiful than most people expect from an American company known for practical transportation. They are more rare than almost any exotic you can name. And they are waiting in private collections, in occasional museum displays, at the world's finest car shows, to remind us what happens when dreamers aim for the stars. The AMC AMX3 never changed the world, but it changed everyone who truly discovers its story.